Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Friday, January 26th, 2024. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. It's where we take a look at the price action of the Bitcoin price chart, the altcoin market, the crypto market in general, along with taking a peek over there at the stock market, which is set to open in 1 minute from right now. Of course, we'll take a peek over there at precious metals and the DXY, or US dollar currency index, along with taking a look at any type of crypto news to start the day, or any type of financial news that seems important to get the day kicked off. As we start our day, as you can see, Bitcoin's back above $41,000 with a little bit of a pop happening over here in the cryptocurrency market to finish off the week, and otherwise just kind of a drainer of a week. And then here we are on Friday getting a little bit of a pop back up. So I could see in the chat earlier, was that the bottom? Was that the bottom of, or at least a local bottom happening in here? I was getting text messages about that as well. So I think today we'll talk a lot about what happens in bottom formations and just how they typically end up happening in here. And we'll kind of peek at where we're at on various assets to say, do we have the markers of it happening in there? Fortunately, the first thing that we've been looking for to just at least make some type of sign out there is some type of bullish divergence happening, at least on small time frames. And fortunately, with this move happening right here, finally, the first little bullish divergences on like the 4-hour time frame have started to emerge in here. So that's a great thing to see that. But then we'll kind of talk about like the processes of how these things kind of happen in here and just kind of give some examples of it as well. So a little bit of a review real quick. You can see over there, Bitcoin at $41,100. Look at the right side of the screen. It's all green. Everything is green over there. Looking over there at the total altcoin market cap, still continuing to hold that support in there. A little bit of a bounce happening down in here. XRP back to 52 cents currently right now. So still holding the support level currently at this time. We'll go back and forth between these today as we talk about that. Dow Jones Industrial Average stock market just opened right now. Dow Jones is up 15 points. The S&P opens flat and the NASDAQ opens down 76 points over there. Let's see what we have for initial pop open. Sometimes this takes a minute to update here. Looks like Coinbase is our leader right as the market does open. It's up about 4%, followed by Tesla, which has had a kind of a brutal week. Followed by ARK up in there, and Roblox. Losers of the morning so far: Nvidia, Microsoft, Netflix, and Google. Otherwise, mostly green, at least here in kind of in the tech sector. But you got the Dow now up 56 points, the S&P up 1 point, and the NASDAQ down 82. As for metals in here, it looks like as we start the day off, gold sitting at $2,020. Really just been hanging out in this range for several weeks on end at this point, with the DXY at 103.29. So still nothing has really changed in here with the DXY also rattling around in here at this point right now. Let's go back. Let's go over here and look at Bitcoin. Nice, nice bounce. Let's talk about bottoming in here. Of course, we all just are happy to see some green happening over here on a Friday for sure. But let's talk about what bottoms tend to look like. So let's see, how do we want to do this in here? What typically happens in bottoms is that we tend to believe, let's do this first. I haven't really thought my process out on how we're going to talk about this. Okay, first of all, you can look at the relative strength index. We could see that the strength of this market has been stuck down below 60 here on the 2-hour time frame. Finally, this little move right in here shows a little bit of bullish divergence, right? So for the last 2 weeks, we've really just been stuck in bear territory on the 2-hour time frame for Bitcoin, just to continue grinding right down in here. So this is the first time to see a little bit of strength actually happen here in just the last few hours. We could see that over here on the 4-hour time frame as well. So we have diverged away from being stuck in here. We do see we're still stuck under 60 on the 40 time frame, on the 4-hour time frame. However, there has been a break of what has happened in here. And so at this point right now, you do actually have a bullish divergence occurring on the top side in here, as price is still lower, but we actually have a divergence happening here in the relative strength index. So that's kind of the first thing to at least be looking for bottoms to start coming in, is that a divergence can start making an appearance in there. Now, what does tend to happen in most markets or in most assets when crashes happen is that when a pretty decent bounce happens after a downtrend occurs, we tend to, as a collective group, all believe that that was the bottom. And then what tends to end up happening is another flush ends up happening, and we go back down one more time. It's really kind of the defeating point, and this is kind of the capitulation point on another move down. So I'll kind of go back through Bitcoin and kind of show that just on smaller time frames in recent history, and even going all the way back to 2017, going through corrections and showing you how we tend to have those things happening in here. And like even on things like XRP, for example, right in here, and even if we use this as an example here, it may be difficult to actually see it on a small time frame. But what happens in here is it looks like it actually bounces all the way back. There's this initial bounce back right here that makes it seem like the bottom is actually in, and then it flushes one more time back down. Like if we actually go back to Bitcoin's most recent history, remember right in here, what happened in here? Crash happens in here, decent sized bounce, relative strength index shoots its way out of here, falls, and then there's one more. And this is kind of the breaking point for the retail crowd. This is where hope is lost, prices are going to go lower, that's it, gloom and doom, it's game over from here. And that's typically the capitulation point, is that there's price moving in the downward direction. There's the first initial bounce that gets believed to be the true bottom. There's one more flush, and that's the capitulation, and that's what the washout is, and that's what ends up happening in there. So you can see that in this example in here. A lot of times we talk about this as crashing structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's typically that roll up of wave 6 within wave 5 of wave 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it rolls back up, and then that, right? So this is where people do believe the bottom happens in here, and then you fall over one more time. That's the capitulation point, and that's where the true bottom ends up getting formed in there. And that's exactly what we actually have here. This is clear as day crashing structure right in here. That's the roll back up, and then boom, that's the last one to actually happen in there. Even if we go back to like FTX, right, what happens in here? It seems like this is the bottom, right? And it holds for a very long time. And then boom, one more flush happens in there with FTX, right? And that marks the actual bottom. And that's how bottoms typically are formed, is that there's this belief that that was truly it. Then boom, there's one more flush that ends up happening in there. You go back to even like 2018 when we have the lows, right, comes down in here. You get this belief that this is it, that is actually the end of the move and it's totally done. You can see the relative strength index. It pops out. It seems like it's done. The big crash happens in here. The strength finally breaks out from that lower range. And then boom, there's one more move that comes back down a little bit lower. And let me put us on like, can I do this on really short time frames? It's kind of hard in here. But you could see this in this correction right in here. There's this move right here that makes you think the bottom is in. Boom, it flushes one more time. There's that down here as well too. It makes you think the bottom is in, and then it flushes one more time. Let's see if TradingView will let me actually do this on the 2-hour time frame. Come on. You could do it. No, you're not going to let me, are you? No, TradingView will not do it. Let's go to CoinTrader Pro. So I think these are just important things. These are good signs, right? It's good signs. It means like we're trying to form somewhat of a local bottom here right now. But also being like real mindful of how these things tend to work out in here. So let's go to the 2-hour time frame over here. There we go. This is again is another example of why I often reference back to CoinTrader Pro. You guys see me using TradingView most of the time. It's because we're getting more real-time updates. When you're using CoinTrader Pro, it's actually pulling the historical data from CoinMarketCap. So this isn't exactly as super real-time. Like if you're wanting to like literally see what is happening second to second, you can't really get that. But if you're looking for more things like after an hour has already happened and you don't need what's happening this exact minute, but like what's happened the last, an hour, TradingView is more of like your literal real time, what's happening this second. CoinTrader Pro, you get more historical data. And unlike TradingView, which you saw, it wouldn't let me go back to 2018. It caught a cutoff there at the beginning of 2019. With CoinTrader Pro, I can go all the way back to the beginning of time and put myself on really small time frames to do that. For some reason, TradingView just won't let you do it. I do not know why. Okay, here we go. It's these, right? We get convinced, like you're having so much sell pressure, and then you finally get that first pop where you think that's it. It's it. That's the bottom. We're in. We're going to move. And then it flushes one more time. Same thing happens in here. It flushes. You think that's it one more time. And then it does it one more time. So typically there is going to be one more flush that happens in here. And it's the one that typically will shake out the market. And a lot of times, as you saw with FTX, that one in particular was associated with news. Not always, but there is something that tends to be the psychological breaking point upon having that one final flush that ends up happening in there, which of course you saw with FTX, and then you also saw it in here. And we just know that. I mean, pretty much everybody here, at least 90% of people here, were here during August, September, and October. You got to see the psychological breaking point of people. It's where Spicy BCB was born, because I was having to fight so aggressively against all the people screaming that we were going to crash from there, to say, no, you just got shooken out. No, you just got shooken out. That is exactly how these things happen. This was a very clear crashing structure in here. And I know for a fact, anybody who has studied the crashing structure, you just see it clear as day in here of it happening. And so Spicy BCB screaming in here. But there does become like, oh, okay, dang, that really sucked. That was bad. Boom, we're back, baby. And then boom, happens. And then the market doesn't trust the rise after that. There is something that happens here that forces psychological participation to change after that. And so those are typical things that we do see that end up happening in there. And right now, obviously, we're getting the first signs of it. So we're getting some bullish divergences to start to emerge from that direction. But just being mindful that there still is, in most circumstances, another flush down that does end up happening in there. We also see that when we look at things like XRP in here, that there is a decent sized bounce that comes back in here to slam back into that broken support, whips down one more time, and then off it goes, right? And like, so something like that, you could even see something like this. Imagine if we saw a price move up here, you would see excitement. You'd say, hey, was that it? Was that the bottom? We're back at 54 cents. And then wham, it slams back down into 48, 49, something like that. That would be a psychological breaking point happening in there. And then you can shift your way back up. So right now, kind of waiting for proof or evidence that that isn't going to be the case. The good things is like, you just have to, the way I think about it is it's a process. What is the thing we've been waiting for all week that just hasn't been evident throughout the market at this point? And that has been a bullish divergence. It just hasn't shown up anywhere in here. And now for the first time, we're getting the first signs of it. So that's a good thing. Now it's time to talk about, well, what can local bottoms look like? What are those processes like? And many times that's it. There's still one more, but it's nice to see the bullish divergence at first start to arrive. So seems likely we're still going to get it. Don't know, but I just wanted to show you exactly how those things do tend to end up playing out. And you can even see that's really how this ended up playing out in here, that it does whip back. Feels like it's the bottom. It has all the signs of the bottom, and then whoom, it whacks one more time. and then it shifts its way up and starts doing all the back testing, and then finally it's off and away. So just kind of keeping that in mind right now, as there is it definitely feels good to see the bullish divergences emerge in there. You can see it clearly. There's no higher highs or higher lows that have happened in here yet, but things that you would look for, right? You end up getting something like that. What do you then end up having? You end up setting, the low again, and then now what do we have? We now have bullish divergences that have clearly emerged in here between the two different sets, and then that ends up providing that optimism that we are forming at least a local bottom to continue bouncing around in this range and not just be crashing into oblivion from right here with Bitcoin, which again has not been my base case for Bitcoin. Right, my base case is really the Batman. For those who have been watching markets in the morning this week, it has been more of like this is more of like a Batman happening in here, kind of thinking it in the form of like that, right? So I think I think we're seeing the first signs of it. Don't be shocked for another low to come in there, but keep an eyes for some types of bullish divergences to really be present to the opposite side now, because we definitely have it happening here to the positive side. So get that off there again so you can see it. So optimistic, good stuff. I think we kind of covered XRP too. So my thoughts remain the same, exact same with that too. Kind of keeping, being mindful of that too. There's no real breakout, right? If this had shown up in here or something like that, like there was this big break right back through, where like, shoom, like that or something like that, I'd be like, huh, that's pretty good. But it does have the appearances of like, hey, this could be that trick. This could be that one that we not always, we tend to see most commonly, where the bullish divergences start to emerge. The bottom gets convinced to be actually in, but then there's that one last flush, and to just be psychologically kind of prepared for it. And that it tends to be the panic one. It tends to be the one where everybody thinks it's nutso. Or not nutso. They think it's Doomtown, right? That's just retail. It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing. And it's interesting to see it too, because could we have the psychology flip there? Because we have already had the drift, right? Psychology has already started to drift. Over the last year, here's what we look like in the last year. Get rid of that. Here's the last year. So you can see hanging out in greed, right? And then we hit those extreme greed levels, which we started talking about in those days. Extreme greed, that's the concern. Boom, then it completely breaks down out of greed here. So we can see we've been in greed since late October in here, then stays in greed till it hits the extreme greed levels. We talked about that a whole lot during the heat of the moment, and then boom, now we've shifted back down to neutral. And so just kind of being cognizant that in that event, that might be the moment where it can kind of drift down a little bit to bring fear back, right? So fear, what do we know, right? When retail's scared, when they're fearful, it tends to be bottoms, and when they're extremely greedy, that tends to be tops. So keeping that in mind, and that's why it's a challenge in this position. You always happen to kind of be on the opposite side of that and communicate that. So you're usually not liked by the masses most of the time, and that is the role I have to play. That is the name of the game, and I fully accept it. So, all right, there you go. So nice to see some supports happening there too for the altcoin market. Okay, let's see how the stock market's doing now that it's been open for a few minutes here. Dow Jones is up 42, S&P is down 3, Nasdaq is down 83. It looks like Coinbase still leading the way this morning, followed by ARK and GE, with the losers of the morning being Nvidia, Microsoft, Netflix, Google, and Apple. So what are they called? The Magnificent Seven, is that what they're calling them these days? So I don't know. Let's see how the DXY is doing. It's still just shuffling around in here. How is gold? No changes happening with gold. So There you go. Nice bounce, nice little bounce happening in there. The first sign of a bullish divergence emerging, the thing that just to kind of be keeping an eye on throughout the weekend and into next week. Oh yeah, we need to talk about that too next week, right? Because maybe next week is the thing where we actually end up getting that to happen, and then there's a big fear narrative that does scare everybody. Next week is Fed week, right? We tend to see volatility in Fed week, right? We kind of are always looking at it from afar away until it finally does end up coming. But we do end up typically having volatility. Narratives are all over the place. Nobody knows what to think when we're in the thick of these moments in here. It's a 97% probability on whether or not the Fed is going to be paused is what the market places a 97% probability that the Fed will pause, still continue to be paused into the next hiking cycle or the next meeting. Currently, right now, it sets at a 52% probability that they'll be paused on March 20th. So, Jerome Powell, he's going to speak in 5 days. They're going to release their, we are paused again. It looks like inflation is cooling and economic growth is blah, 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 is heating. I guess with GDP coming out, they're going to have to say economic growth was right. I don't know. We'll see what they say. But there tends to be a little bit of volatility in the market and then a big kind of shift on what everybody ends up thinking is going to happen. We saw that even after the last Fed meeting, right? After the last Fed meeting, that's where all these rate cuts ended up being priced into the market over the next, over the course of 2024. And a lot of that optimism and excitement ends up happening after that. And then, the wording, that's because Jerome Powell came out and pretty hawkish. I'm not hawkish, he was dovish, right? And he's like, hey, obviously, inflation hasn't gotten down to 2%. We're probably going to have to start cutting before we get to 2% because we don't want to overshoot it. And so the market said, okay, cut it away. And so we'll see what he says when he comes out on Wednesday. We always live stream those. We watch the market. We watch Bitcoin. We watch the Dow Jones Industrial Average, gold, DXY. We watch all that and have the charts in the background when I got Jerome Powell down here in the left side of the screen. And we just kind of see how the markets react to all of that. Last time we did actually get to play the frog at the end of it because it's Wednesday and the results were good. But we tend to have volatility leading up to it, during it, and after. So it's kind of like we have timing also approaching for something like that to happen, where you get that next low, but you have the bullish divergence that happens in there, right? You get the next low, but you have the bullish divergence that is really set in stone in there, and then sentiment shifts, opinions of everybody. It just becomes a whole lot of noise that happens out there, especially with the Fed and all that stuff. And the reality is, the longer they can stay paused, the better, right? We've gone through all of that data. We've looked at all of that throughout time, and the rate cuts are the mark of the beginning of the end, right? And so as long as they stay paused, it's good. Doesn't matter if he comes out there and he's like, we're going to stay paused longer. The market's going to be like, oh, God. But we've done a lot of the analysis. We've shown it really throughout history. That's okay. So even if people are screaming and crying and saying it's the end of the world because they're not cutting, we know that, the cuts are the marks of get ready. Like, it's going to get bad out there, right? They're cutting because they need to. They're not cutting because they're trying to pump the stock market, right? So get ready for next week. Get ready for narrative shifts. Get ready for sentiment shifts. Get ready for volatility, and just kind of keeping in mind what we see happening here today. That's the first good sign of a bullish divergence happening in here. But typically that first one where we do think it's the bottom tends up to be kind of the fake out. There tends to be one more slosh down. And if we do end up getting it, to not be tricked by what the sentiment of the market actually is at that time. We'll kind of keep an eye and make sure that those bullish divergences still continue to remain in there when something like that does happen. And then we'll just keep marching forward. So whether or not you don't like hearing that, hey, there's the potential for another low to happen in here. You have to look for bottom structures, right? And I know we all want V bottoms. We just want things to go down and then go straight back up, and all is well in the universe. I totally got it. I'm right there with you. But I've been through enough of these things before that typically it's a process. Typically we have to work a couple of things out before it ends up happening. Good news is for for the market and for these assets, we're starting to flash some of the first signs of bottoming structures forming in here. And so, the next one is that, we don't have any signs flashing, hey, there was a big, massive bullish divergence that came off the bottom here, right? It's like, no, okay, now we're forming our first one. You set your next low, and if you set your next low with a much higher RSI, boom. Now, right, now you say, we got it, right? So that's kind of the first sign right there. Very optimistic to see that happening and for some stability to return. Again, just sticking straight with it. I'm not in the camp of Bitcoin going to a new all-time high. I can kind of like, if my hypothesis ends up being right? Like, I also like gauge Twitter sentiment. How pissed off are people at me? How much are people trying to discredit me and do all that stuff? And thinking ahead, that what would sentiment be like? And let's just do this first. What if it does do that? Okay, if it does that, and this, right? What would happen in here, right? There would be the extreme excitement again, right? There would be the blockchain backer's a dummy. He knows nothing. We're going to the moon. The crowd is all euphoric. The crowd is all excited. And those are elements we'll be looking for. And we're talking about these ahead of time, just like we talked about it all ahead of time, that they would do that here, right? That hate me here, but that's also something you can use as an indicator. If you don't realize that, how much does a crowd hate PCP right now? If they hate him tremendously, okay, that's a sign, and to pay attention to that. I saw Moon Lambo had pointed Matt from Moon Lambo channel, he had posted over there on Twitter, and he said something kind. John Deaton said something kind about it too. And I was like, hey, do you remember another time where this happened? And they're like, yeah, I remember it very well. It was right here. So the more of a mockery, it's a good sign. I don't take it personally because I've been here long enough to know that's just how it goes, man. The crowd is the crowd, man. They're their thing. Let them do their thing. But we'll be paying really close attention if we end up getting that and what that sentiment is like. If you get this high right here and it becomes really, really euphoric in here, that may be our sign. I've got other stuff we're going to look at too when it comes to the Fed funds rate, when it comes to the stock market, gold, all those other elements to give other clues outside of just saying, hey, we've hit a particular retracement level crowd. There's other elements too, but just kind of preparing for it, that this is what we want. We actually want the crowd to become really euphoric. We want the crowd to become real excited, and that, because that translates into the rest of the market. They just start plowing money everywhere and acting like full-blown degens. And well, if you're positioned in the altcoin market, hopefully that benefits that. So that is kind of what I'm looking for. This is my base case of what I'm looking for. As somebody mentioned yesterday, they were like, well, how do you know we're not already like here, right? And yeah, pray to God we're not. But it's not my base case to thinking that just because of what's going on in the stock market, that it seems more likely it's going to be more of a longer distribution in the stock market, which would still, that whole thing. So, yeah, I still think there's like an exciting time here for this market. I still think there's going to be a lot of hope and optimism and euphoria happening everywhere. But, there's processes that we have to go through in here, and we're still kind of waiting for those to finish playing themselves out and for the first bullish divergences to start showing themselves in here. So one of the good things to kind of look at, let's see if we can do this. Do we get that in here? I don't even know. Kind of. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Pray to God we're not right here, right? I don't think we are, but we'll watch it. We're still looking for one more low. Okay, there you go. Still waiting for one more. Optimistic signs in there, but don't be too tricked by this one, because we do tend to set one more. Just be prepared for the psychology of the market when it ends up occurring, should it occur. Next week is volatility week. It is the Fed week. We always have volatility during Fed week, before, during, and after. So I don't even know what we should be cheering for during the Fed, right? Like last time we knew we weren't at the 4.236, so we were like cheering for the Fed to like be paused and be dovish and send us. At this point, I don't think Like for an example here, all right. So like in this one right here, so you can kind of see what ends up happening here. Come on. Okay. Fed's paused, right? Fed's paused. Market breaks into new all-time highs. There became an initial pullback and some signs of trouble emerged. And then the Fed ended up actually doing like an emergency rate cut in here. So I would think if we're going to follow that same formula, right, that you would still see the Fed come up, and the Fed would end up just saying, hey, we're paused, we're paused, we're paused. Maybe some sign of trouble in the economy starts showing up, as TXMC is always showing. He's got a million things to show that there are, but maybe they actually become present, like in corporate real estate, and their refinancing issues that they're having in there. And then some type of rate cut comes in here, right? Like this would be the exact great financial crisis playbook and then this just keeps going. And then finally they start cutting it down in here. So we would actually think if the playbook is still followed the same way, it's that they're going to come out, be paused, and maybe dampen expectations of like aggressive rate cuts happening anytime soon. Because when the rate cuts do come, they're coming to try to save the economy. They're coming to try to save the markets after things have already gotten really bad. So I don't know if we're like truly cheering for anything during the Fed meeting, except that, continued pause, right? The longer we're paused, the better. The second the rates start to happen, that's when our clock is ticking. And so keep your eyes on that for next week. And so that would also mean that whatever they do say, we'll see if the market's thoughts and probabilities still remain within whatever they think it's going to be. But okay, there you go. $41,400 over there for Bitcoin. 52 cents. We still have 51,996 over there for XRP altcoin market. A little bit of green right in there, as you can see on the right side of the screen. Otherwise, stock market, Dow up 25. So we're slipping a little bit as the market has been opening now. Dow is up 27 points. S&P up down 4. NASDAQ down 92. Coinbase still leading the way there for the day. Tesla, GE follow behind. Losers of the morning, NVIDIA, Roblox, and Microsoft. But these are really nothing to run and tell mom about. When we saw Tesla down like 12%, we saw United Health down quite a bit yesterday, which it did end up recovering quite a bit of it in there. But I've talked about this too. This is one of those things you just kind of, I still look at it and say, again. United Health represents over 10% of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It always keeps me up. It doesn't keep me up. But man, like I do think to myself, what the heck is the narrative going to be out there if the Dow rejects at the 4.236 and the NASDAQ, and if the leading causation is United Health or the healthcare sector? What does that actually mean? What is the narrative? I don't know. I don't like to think about it. But, United Health represents quite a bit. We could see that bearish divergence on the weekly. You could see that bearish divergence there on the monthly happening in there. This thing has tried to gain a little bit of footing in here. It doesn't look like it's held it so far. Yeah. Don't know. I don't cheer for that. But just know this thing represents 10%. If there's some magical unicorn, fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, or God, or a simulation event that ends up occurring, for some reason, this is the factor that is the culprit. You said you have a lot of thinking to do. There's a reason why one of those NFTs has the tinfoil hat, and it's because events tend to occur when they're supposed to occur. And I think you all got to witness that with the ETF being launched at the 618 retracement level. And you got to see that with the ETF being launched exactly as Grayscale hits its 702 Fibonacci retracement. The ETF gets launched. We hit extreme greed. Extreme greed happens at the retracement levels. ETF launch. It's truly astonishing. So, okay. We won't gloom and doom too much today. We'll keep things positive. Positive things to focus on. One, we've got the first bull divergence emerging in here right now. Not to be too excited if you're thinking it's the bottom, because in most bottoms we do tend to see these things end up happening, and then we have to actually create the bullish divergence down here on the downside. So not to like get too euphoric just yet. It's a good sign of bottoming, of local supports trying to come in and trying to hold it. But we just kind of got to be mindful. These things tend to pull back. It tends to become that true bullish divergence that ends up happening in there. And then we have Fed week coming up next week. But these are the first initial signs that we do look for, and they're optimistic. And these things we even see over here, these things end up happening and pull back to support, and you slam. Retail gets spooked. Retail gets really scared. And if that happens next week, we'll just reflect back on this. We'll say, remember, these are all the things we talked about. Typically, the bullish divergence comes in. There's a one more slam. And then at that point, retail can't handle it anymore on that last slam that ends up happening in there. And then that's where retail does sell. Retail does then become bearish during the wall of worry, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now. I think there's a lot of hope, a lot of optimism still, and things are going to be okay and gravy. We'll see. And like to just really focus on it, I feel like I'm really harping on this too. News, right? Everybody, like anybody who doesn't do any charting, they are just relying on the news wire entirely. Not to focus on news, not to focus on what it is. What was the other one that came out the other? Okay, look, like, so here, right? What are we talking about down here? What were the two things that end up showing up in here this week? Right. 2 weeks ago, you're given the ultimate news to be the most biggest bull in the entire place of the universe. Right. Yes. The flows, they're going to be so massive. They're going to be so epic. Unbelievable flows are coming. Boom. It doesn't really pan out. Right. Grayscale is dumping. Grayscale is dumping. They still have a whole lot more of dumping that they have to do. Mt. Gox is going to be selling all their Bitcoin. And then yesterday, U.S. government files to sell $120 million worth of Bitcoin. Right? You don't get those things at peaks, right? You get them at bottoms. Always. If you are trading a news wire and your emotions are attached to your analysis, which is totally news wire, you are likely finding the same thing happening to you over and over and over and over and over and over again. Do not focus on the news wire. It's BS. Okay, moving on. Green. We'll take a little bit of green after what we've kind of been through this last couple of weeks. Still no change over here for gold. Looks like stocks are slipping a little bit more. Again, with the stocks, right, this week we got within 1% of the 4.236 extension over there for the NASDAQ. I don't think the Dow got within 2. Where can I find you? There you are. $2.96. Wouldn't it be crazy if we and I'm not predicting this to happen because it doesn't match like exactly how things have gone when it comes to like Fed cutting and stuff like that. Wouldn't it be crazy if during the Fed meeting, the Fed cuts and like the NASDAQ and the Dow both hit the 4.236 at the same time, which these are based off different time frames, right? This is based off the great financial crisis from here in 2007 to 2009, whereas the NASDAQ is based off of the dot-com bubble from 2000 to 2002. That what if they both hit at the exact same time and the retail narrative to YOLO go nuts is the Fed does a surprise like 25 basis point rate cut when the market totally thinks like 97% probability that they're not. Right? That would be those are the type of events where like, dang, there we go. Those are confluence, right? Because that's where retail gets really, really excited. So, okay, we're moving on. Did we get news? Gosh, news. Here we go. Tech layoffs balloon in January as Wall Street rally lifts Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft to records. Intel stock sinks 10% in pre-market trading as early 2024 outlook comes up short. JP Morgan Chase shuffles top leaders as race to secede Jamie Dimon drags on. Okay. Fed's favorite inflation gauge was 0.2% in December and was up 2.9% from a year ago. 2.9%. Okay, cool. Fed's prefer core price gauge cools on robust spending. So, all right, bond yields rise, futures drop after mixed data. U.S. extends lead over China and race for world's biggest economy. American workers come out winning in a clash between economists over a curve. UN court tells Israel to protect Gazans, avoid ceasefire call. We get a lot of like international war stuff over here on Bloomberg. Okay, cool. All right. U.S. Department of Defense predicts AI versus counter AI battle. Crypto exec sees mid to low 20K price before new all-time highs. Web3 gamer Axie moment for shrapnel and I don't know. Okay. Our Ethereum ETF is coming sooner than you expect. Okay. Yeah. Microsoft crosses 3 trillion valuation. Solana price rebounds off weekly low. Is $90 Solana possible? Isn't it $90 right now? It's $91. Okay. Users report new Trezor phishing emails days after support breach. We talked about that yesterday. CC tried to pledge his entire Binance stake to leave US in January. 11 Bitcoin miners may not mine profitably post halving. Yeah, you would think so. You would think, like, I don't get it. It's like a no-win game. Bitcoin mining. The second the halving happens, it's lights out, dude. Bitcoin ETF flows show negative trend for first time since launch. Yeah, so the ETF flows are not what was planned. Just so you guys, or if you guys are paying attention to that, they are drifting down. They are negative. The total outflows, I think 4 out of 5 days this week have been negative. The only day that wasn't was Monday. So it's just been getting more and more steep of negative outflows when you combine all the ETFs, when you include Grayscale on there. If you're not looking at Grayscale, if you're looking at all the other ones alone, there is still positive inflows, but those inflows are declining every day. So the offset with Grayscale is more and more and more. Again, narratives, who cares, right? They tried to make a big narrative out of it. It turned out to be nothing, right? So I don't really view the flows as much either. But at least we could shush that dumb narrative now for a little while with Bitcoin ETF flows. It's going to be $1 bajillion. Okay, CeeLo shopping for blockchain partner turns to the delicate issue of money. Grayscale's GPTC profit taking likely over, easing billion Bitcoin selling pressure. Yeah, okay. Let's go snort that hopium. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's our news. All right, there we go. That's it. That's everything going on. We got a nice little pop here. We got a little bit of a bullish divergence in there. We talked all about the things that happen in there when we're typically creating any type of bottoms. You typically do end up having that. The next thing to watch for is to see if we can have a bullish divergence if there is another new low that does get pressed in there. So just kind of waiting to see how that goes in there, but at least it feels like the relief is starting to kind of set in a little bit and stability starting to set in. Get ready for next week, though. We'll have quite a bit of stuff going on in there. It's Fed week on Wednesday. Figure out what time that is right there for you. So essentially, whatever time it is where you live for markets in the morning, when markets in the morning comes on, it's 4.5 hours after that. That's what time I go live for that thing. So that's as we get closer to it, we'll lock that in. But okay, let's hop into the chat. We're going to make it pretty quick today on a Friday, guys, so we can go ahead and get on our way. But I have already rambled my mouth for 43 minutes, but I am going to try to get through chat a little bit quicker today. Ben Davenport says, as a member for 7 months, says, when do you think Taylor's version of Reputation is going to be released? Also, have to thank those gifting memberships as always. I've received 7. Dang, man, Ben's gotten 7 from hanging out in the chat probably all the time and being active. People just hooked him up. So, well, Ben, thanks for being active, dude. Thanks for being here, bro. I don't know, right? What was that one released in 2017? Probably doesn't need to be re-recorded. Don't know. If you haven't seen the Reputation Stadium tour on Netflix, you're in for a treat. David Lechner gets a BCB membership. Brother, thank you very much. Thanks, David. Duwara Consciousness Foundation. Love to you and the family, bro. Dude, thanks, man. Just kind super chat. Thank you. Same to you. Gator gifted 5 BCB memberships. Gator, man, thank you, sir. It was right when the stream started. I saw that right when I was going live. Baby Oscar Hernandez, Goo Goo Gaga, amigos. I love you all. Baby Oscar Hernandez, this has been a while. Not Oscar Hernandez. You don't have to come out and say hi right now. It's okay. But just know we're saying hi. I hope you're doing good out there, man. Thank you, baby Oscar Hernandez. Crypto Man X says XRB about to go Super Saiyan. I hope so. That would be very nice. Thank you, brother. Crypto Loluk XRP. Just a very big thanks for the newsletter, for the course, for everyday streams and videos. BCB is the legend. From dark to light, hell of a ride. 3 years listening. Dude, thank you, man. Member for 6 months. Thank you very much. Stephen Smith says, thoughts on multiplying Dow Jones Industrial Average by, I don't know what that is, data set, purchasing power. Can divide current value at 32.6 to get chart in current terms. Tell us a different story regarding 4.236 extension in 1920s fractal. I don't know, brother. I have to do that on another time. And one thing to be mindful of, are we changing the data? Are we changing the metrics we're looking at to suit the narrative that we want it to be? Right? That's what happened at the peak of Bitcoin. That's what happened at the peak of Ethereum and the peak of the crypto market. All these other different things people are looking at. M2 money supply, log-based fib extensions, changing things around to suit what people wanted. I don't think the algos are trading off of those types of things, right? I think the algos are keeping it pretty simple. But when I'm off channel, I could try to play with that stuff and see what it is. But just also reminding ourselves: are we trying to change the data, change the way we're looking at things to suit, hopefully something that we're wanting, right? But I'll look at it. Holy Schnikes gifted a BCB membership, brother. Thank you very much. And Steven, that was your first time, man. Thank you. Holy Schnikes gifted a BCB membership, brother. Thank you. Chasing News says, hey, BCB, happy Friday. Could you review Microsoft versus Ethereum's crashing structure and give your thoughts on this? Microsoft versus Ethereum's crashing structure and give your thoughts on this. What crashing structure are we looking at on either one of those? I'm not sure. I'll look at those privately. And then if we can try to bring it up next week. But I'm not entirely clear on which ones we're asking for there. I don't want to ignore you because it was generous of you. I appreciate it. Just not really sure. KB gifted 5 BCB memberships. Brother, thank you. John Trades, it's very kind of you. So if you got your name hooked up by these guys, by KB, Gator, David Lechner, make sure I didn't miss anybody else up until that point. Holy Schnikes. If you guys got your name flipped green, make sure to say thanks because that wasn't free. That they hooked it up. Do you have a 4.236 target on market cap charts on all of your crypto holdings like OP and NEAR? No. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Got a little spit there. How would you do that on OP, right? Because it's a new asset, right? NEAR is kind of one of those ones. It's so borderline on NEAR, right? With NEAR, you have a big fall off on your full-time devs. So that's one of those kind of things like those historically were not good signs in the past when you have a big fall off of full-time devs, right? Now, in the developer report, it does talk about all of the top ecosystems have dealt with developer decline due to them being the ones that gained the most during 2021. So you're seeing a lot of them that had like massive gains of developers in 2021. They're also all in the negative. None of them are in the positive. Your Ethereum's, NEAR's, Solana's, all of them, Cosmos, all of them. They're all in decline because they swallowed pretty much the whole market of developers. However, the thing with NEAR that does have a little bit of concern to me is that it's declining at the biggest rate, the most rapid rate of NEAR. So in signs like that, it's more of like, okay, if you're going to hold that thing thinking of it, well, how, we saw it in 2021, only 22% of assets went into all-time highs. A lot of the other stuff, it just went and hit retracement levels. So if we're seeing signs throughout the rest of the market of like, hey, the total market cap of the entire altcoin market is hitting a particular level, or maybe you have a couple of assets that are hitting 4.236s at relatively the same time. And then if something like NEAR is only at like a 618 retracement or a 702 retracement or something like that, that might be it for NEAR, right? That might be all it's going to end up getting, right? Is it one of those heavily VC funded ones? Like, I when I went to Consensus, NEAR was one of the top sponsors there. I always think to myself, if you're a top sponsor, is that a good sign or a bad sign? That might be a bad sign. Like, how do you have all this spare money? You're paying all this money to advertise. Like, are you just trying to get people to come in and buy the bags and you're selling them? I don't know. I don't know. That's totally made up speculation on my part. But keeping an eye on it with something like NEAR, like, really, the report that just came out really showed how much developers they've lost. Same thing goes with Solana, guys. The thing Solana has a little bit more is, they have, of course, very high NFT volume. They have strong culture in their communities, and the total value locked for Solana is quite high. So there's people really using it. Not so sure about NEAR. FML. Hey, BCB. Oh, okay. I get it. Nice name. Hey, BCB. If we do go down because of the recession, why would XRP go up in this scenario? I don't think it would. It has to go first, right? If we start a recession immediately, if the stock market starts crashing immediately and going pummeling into the ground, that is probably bad for all of crypto, right? Let's not be fooled. The hope is that we are in distribution that hangs out here for quite some time. Optimism, euphoria, people just keep pouring money into the market. They think it's all going to keep going. Nothing's going to change. This time is not different. This time is different, right? Where they're like, oh, the Fed's cutting. That means we're bullish. And right, they're just dumbly throwing money into the market when every time the Fed has started cutting, that was the end. That was right before the recession happened. It's right before everything really hit the fan. So my thoughts are not here. If that happens, if we go crumbling and forget that line there, that doesn't exist. I meant there. We just keep going and going. No, we're screwed. I mean, that's the reality. If this thing just completely goes straight line down, we're probably screwed. But I show it on the channel all the time of like distribution structures. NDXT. All right, we've looked at this a lot. Please be there. There we go. Right, plenty of time for stuff to happen, euphoria and all that in here for months on end. And again, that's been the thesis that I've presented over here in crypto and in the newsletters here on the YouTube channel, right? 2024, first half of it, opportunity, potential for a lot of excitement, but eventually that ends up changing. But if we could just go straight line down and there's a flash crash and everything just hits the complete and utter fan out there, yeah, I don't see how XRP is going to fly during that type of circumstance at all, right? So we have to see things stabilize. You have to likely see Bitcoin stabilize in here, do the whole Batman, right? See the stock market continue to hold up. Fed ends up doing their first rate cut. Retail totally misinterprets it and always associates rate cuts being the thing that's bullish. It's not rate cuts that are bullish, guys. It's rates being at zero that were bullish. But that path from 4, 3, or 5 to 0, S was hitting the fan the whole time. It's once we got to 0, that's where bottoms came in. But that whole trajectory down, no. But retail totally has it wrong. Retail totally thinks the second that we cut, we're bullish and we're just going to rampage. So there's still like those events to still kind of play out in here. See the Fed stepping in, the money printer's on, QE has started. Everybody's going to be looking for not QE because in 2019 we had that. The Fed was denying that they had started QE, but they had started QE. So the market is trying to sniff out QE at any possible moment. You're going to see it on Twitter. Look, the balance sheet is raising. They're doing QE, but they're not saying that they're doing QE. See, they've been doing QE for 2 months, and then boom, they come in and do a rate cut, and then everybody's like, QE's back, money printers on LFG. But that's because S is about to hit the fan. You know what I mean? But I don't think of it like in the event of a straight line down. Yeah, we're screwed, dude. But can you count on that to happen? Can you count on straight line down? I don't see it, right? What I see is distribution. And that's why we look at this stuff, right? It's more likely for distribution to happen in here. And in that circumstance, there's just plenty of time, right? There's plenty of time for this market to move. There's plenty of time for excitement, euphoria, retail, ridiculousness, thinking rate cuts are great, all those different things to happen, and repricing of markets to occur. But my thoughts are, I think we have an exciting 2024, but it'll also come to an end in 2024. And it's having to look forward and have that forward outlook. It's not about everybody likes to just live in the freaking moment so much. Like, oh my gosh, doom now, doom today. These are processes. Just like we're talking about with if Bitcoin is bottoming in here, that there's a process and the bullish divergence that emerges in here. And these are processes to happen. Tops tend to have processes that occur too. We haven't hit the 4.236 extension. You go back and even look at like Bitcoin in here. This is hitting the 4.236 extension on its market cap right here, right? It pulls back from the 4.236 extension, takes one more stab at the 4.236 extension, and then comes down afterwards. So just because we get up in here doesn't mean we're done. There's pulling backs. It tries one more time to hit it, and then it eventually rolls over and goes. So, yeah. But yeah, if it goes straight line down, I doubt it. Doubt anything's going up. Why do you start your fib scale for the Dow Jones at 2009 and dip instead of the most recent one in January of 2020? Because this is the whole range and the wave count. Where is the Dow? Why don't I have it here? We'll just go here. This is all the same move, right? This is our last long range. This is our big range back in here. Right? Long, decade-long range, escaping from long range. It's like saying, well, why aren't we using our 4.236 on this one or this one, right? It's all this big, giant range. And that we've seen ranges like that before that went literally this far. But yeah, it'd be bizarre to use that range right there. Just using a V bottom. And we've talked about this in bubbles, and I'm not going to go too far into it right now. But like even in things like Ethereum, you can go review Ethereum's 2017 bubble. The whole thing is literally this. It is literally exactly this. Every phase of it, of the bubble, is in here. All of these ranges are all in here. And then even right in here at your very ending, you have the classic explained and talked about on the YouTube channel since 2020. The double tap bull flag breakout, short squeeze, violent backtest into the bull flag V bottom. This is a phase in a bubble. This is your double tap on top of the all-time high of the range. This is your breakout. This is your short squeeze, your violent backtest into the bull flag, and then your final phase of the bubble. So this is actually part of an actual bubble right in here. I got to go a lot faster. Samuel Williams, member for 7 months. Hey, BCB, probably been asked before, but is Bitcoin hitting an all-time high requirement for XRP to hit an all-time high? Thanks, BCB. In every single historical cycle, yes, right? But as you can see, there's other macro conditions happening out here right now. If this is like we've talked about on here for, you've been a member for 7 months, Samuel. Come on, bro. Or into a retrace, right? And so right now we're into the retrace, and we're going to see if this market can do something into the actual retrace rather than going into an all-time high. Teddy Air, member, welcome. Philip Mann gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you. Laurentro Parada, what are your thoughts regarding Bitcoin Cash? Not a whole lot. It's still one of the first ones to break out of Wyckoff accumulation. It still has held its level. But just like everything else, it hits those April of 2022 prices. Nothing has seemed to occur with it since yet. George Alexander Ropoulos gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you. Tino says, what do you think of the Gann Square and theory? Not too familiar with it. Eric Martinson gifted a BCB membership. Brother, thank you. So does Lisa D. Crook gifted a BCB membership. Thank you, Lisa. Solomon Cattle Farm, according to your opinion, if Bitcoin does go into distribution, but if altcoins or XRP doesn't move much, will you be selling XRP or any altcoins? Yes. If we get back up in there and nothing is happening with the altcoin market, I have to sell some of my altcoins. I have to risk manage. Sherv says, I used your $6 shirt method and not changed my undies for 12 months. Okay, sir, that is not my method. And I've saved 589 XRP to the moon we go. Also, how did you like Vortex math? I didn't look into Vortex math. I thought we said that was not real. Didn't we say that's not real? Now, sir, you do need to change your undies, but I do support the $6 t-shirts. And as a matter of fact, I've got a nice Target. What brand are these things? Goodfellow. The $6 Target t-shirt on right now. Sheriff says, you should find a sponsor for alcohol addiction. You'd be saving lives. People have to seek that out. You can't force, like when people want to get sober or they want to get cleaned up, they just have to be at that place in their lives. In most circumstances, for people to change that type of behavior, they actually have to reach a level of desperation. Things have to actually get so bad in their life that they're actually truly desperate for change. Otherwise, most of the times, they just still kind of try to edge by and get by and be functional, right? It's not until like things actually get truly, truly bad, they want that. And no matter how much you try to convince them, they're not going to change. So you don't see me really, even if you guys don't know, I've been sober for over a decade, over 10 years. And you can always improve your life. You can change. You can have an entirely new life. But you got to want it. You got to want to work for it. You got to stop making the excuses. There's no half measures, right? There's just no half measures. You got to go for it. And I'm living proof that life can be fantastic. So if you ever want to do it and seek help, go for it, man. Change your whole life. Terrence Rafferty. I've been loving Sui, but should I? Thank you for everything, BCB. You were the GOAT. And it's not debatable. Thank you, Terrence. Sui was one of those ones that we were looking at on the developer data very early and got in on. At least I did. Still got it. I was also looking at a TVL, total value locked. It's now moved up to number 12. It has bypassed Cardano. Crazy. Adam says, hey, BCB, how high do you think ICP can go in this bull cycle? Thanks for everything you do. So, we talk about it a lot in here. The ICP is one of those ones that was a victim of its own self. When you have that type of an inflation rate, you're going to have a price destruction. So, one of those things to kind of look at more so would be like the market cap of ICP. Right. This is kind of your rally prior to capitulation. This is your long-term accumulation. In the event of like a full-blown bull cycle for something like ICP, it has the potential to like 12x from where it's at. Is like where I would feel comfortable of like my max target for ICP. About 12x from where it's at currently right now. Again, being real mindful of the inflation rate, enough time could deteriorate that to make it lower, right? And like, where is, maybe $150. But again, if this takes like a year to get there, if this takes 6 months to get there, being mindful of what ICP's inflation rate is, that could come down, right? So maybe as high as $150, you know. Thank you, Adam. Andy Philpott gifted 10 memberships, man. Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Andy, thank you. Sherv with the little super sticker. What is that? Little rose. Thank you. Derek Daniels. Good morning, BCB. Thank you for beating the retail out of me. Quick refresher. How would XRP have the runway left for a $9 target? Total 3 retraces. XRP would need to literally pull all that liquidity. Yeah, you'd need total 3 to pretty much go into an all-time high. Let's not kid ourselves, right? So we'd have to be looking for. Sure. Thank you, Derek. Yeah, I mean, no, we'd need an all-time high. Sure. What are the chances alts go to the moon on the retrace of the stock market crash? Wouldn't that be something? Right. So, like, for example, this giant crash here for Bitcoin relatively unaffected the altcoin market in 2017, and then it really pushed into an actual retrace happening in here. Wouldn't that just be something? if that's what ended up happening, I can't bet on that. But yeah, what if? I don't know. It'd be awesome, I guess, right? Ask Rock what vortex math is. You'll be fascinated. I thought we Googled it, what it was. And it was like something made up by some dude or something. All right, I'll ask Rock. I have like the premium thing for Twitter. Oh, Steven Inneberg, did I miss you? You did a little skip-a-risky. Steven, where are you? Here it is. When are we doing a member stream? Thanks for all the words of wisdom during this time. That's a fantastic question. Let's go see when the last one was that we did. Public members. We did one on January. We just did one 2 weeks ago. I don't know. So maybe in like a week. Maybe in like a week. But I'm glad to hear beating the retail out of you. Yeah, and that's just like, man, like, and it's the hard thing about retail thing. And like, so from my observations, when I put my tinfoil hat on, if you were like a corporation, if you were a VC, if you really wanted retail but to behave one way, would you place plants inside retail? Would you place content creators inside retail for retail to trust? Just like Jim Cramer is the inverse Cramer, right? Think of it that way, right? Is he really as bad as he is, or is he a plant? Is he somebody who works for CNBC and he's designed to take retail the wrong way? If I was a VC or something like that, would part of my marketing strategy, part of my business strategy also be to create YouTube content, create Twitter content, to also try to corral retail, right? And so I think to myself, there's got to be some of those in this space. I have my suspicions of who they are. I'm not going to say they are, but it like feels obvious to me of which ones they are, but they have massive followings. And I think to myself, like, this is the retail herder. Like, these are the guys. And so he says retail, Alba Regard says Kramer, inverse Kramer ETF is negative. Yeah, but I think Kramer has figured out how to play it, right? He's figured out how to play it and convince whoever. We don't know who the person is making the decisions behind the inverse Kramer thing. So no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to sit there and accuse. I don't ever do that, right? On this YouTube channel, you never hear me pick people and name people by name. There's content creators out there who are so insecure with themselves, they bring my name up all the time. Hi, thanks for the free advertising. I know you're watching right now too, because you watch my content to figure out what's happening in the market. But I don't do that to other people. It's just the lowest level of slime bag. So I don't do it. Yes. to the content creators watching right now, who get all your information by watching my content, and then you talk trash about me. I know it, and you're a piece of crap. Just know I know. All right. Moving on. So anyway, yeah, you got to figure that stuff out. And so retail doesn't know that. New retail doesn't know that they're being led. They're being sheep. They don't know. And it's not only that, too. It's not only other people wrong footing. Potentially that there's people who are designed to do the Kramer effect on you. It's also, you have to think of the incentivized model of content creation. And a lot of times we don't think about that, the incentivized model. When things are really scary, if you want to increase your viewership, create titles that are like, bigger crash coming. Uh-oh, look at these problems. Oh no, I can't believe this is going to happen. Those types of titles work well when sentiment has shifted. And so right now, we just looked at the fear and greed index. We saw that we've spent the last 3 months in greed. Now, content creators, if they want to improve their click-through rate, improve their viewership, you have to really start targeting towards what people are actually searching for. They're worried, they're a little bit more uneasy, they're a little bit more scared, so you create content tailored towards that. When retail investors all go long and YOLO long together and they're unwaveringly confident, creating content to actually suit that narrative. And so in an early day of a retail investor, you probably aren't looking at it from that aspect and thinking of it through the lens of a content creator of the incentive model, right? And not thinking this person is just being incentivized to do this, right? And so that it is one reason why content creators probably even say my name in the first place. I am pretty much ruining what they're saying. If they're bearish at the bottom and I'm a bull, that's the opposite of what they're saying. It pisses them off, right? If I'm at the top, I'm a bear, right? And let's just be real. This is a very small amount of people that I'm talking about, right? Most content creators do not do this, right? Where they're going to pick people out by name. It's the insecure ones. But they don't pivot themselves to prepare for this type of stuff to end up happening. So I'm going to change it. As a retail investor, it's very difficult coming into this space and trying to find content that is not one that is a Kramer effect happening to you, where there's VCs trying to push some type of narrative on you and get you to DTF you. Or recognizing the incentive model of content creation. I do not care about my subscriber growth growing anymore. And it's just the cold, hard reality of it. And do I want people watching my content? Do I gauge that of like, am I doing a good job? Of course. But growing the actual channel anymore, it's gone so big, it's beyond my wildest dreams of what it would ever be. I do not have the motivation or the determination to become the #1 crypto YouTube channel. I just don't have it. I also have real weird mixed feelings about being a celebrity within the crypto space. It is very weird for me to go to these events and people want to meet me. That is so weird. If I'm like, hey, I just want to shake your hand. I'm like, okay. And then there's another guy, and then there's another guy. And it's very humbling, and I enjoy every second of it. But it's crazy to me. Crazy. I don't actively like seek that to feel good about myself. You know what I mean? It feels really good, and I cannot wait to go to like XRP Las Vegas. But it's not something that's like a determining factor of my happiness and myself. So I feel I accomplished getting a channel to a size that I never thought I would get to. The fact that I even got the 100,000 subscriber plaque on my wall is just crazy. I have no motivation to go chase the 1 million subscriber thing. But I just don't. I'd have to put open mouth thumbnails. Oh my God, look where this chart is going. And I just don't want to do it. So anyway, I don't know how I got on this long tangent, but I did. So anyway, it's difficult being a retail investor. The best thing you can possibly do is just try to learn how to do stuff yourself. And that's the reality. Watching my videos, I mean, I give you ideas and stuff like that, but you know, in the end, you're the one pulling the triggers on everything. You're the one doing everything, and you're the one who has to have the confidence in what you're doing. And what most people try to do is just try to get that spoon fed to them from different sources. And in the end, you're not going to have any type of conviction in anything that you do. So your best thing you can possibly do is learn how to do stuff, and then you'll have your own conviction in whatever it is that you're doing, and that's the reality of it all. And once you do know what you're doing, you spot all the nonsense. I call it magical unicorn fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings god, or a simulation on the charts, because we tend to see all these events and these things actually happen on the charts, and once you actually know how to read the charts and know how to do those things, you start spotting them too. And like your world perception and your world view, politics, all that stuff, man, it kind of goes out the window. You're kind of like, I am 100% living in a simulation right now. All right, we've lost track. 2,400 people listening to me ramble like a weirdo. We're moving on. What? Mark, any thoughts on the crashing structure accumulation of BABA to Ethereum? I don't know, man. I don't know. BABA, isn't that the one? Wait, Alibaba? Okay. I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know, man. Mark, I don't know. Sure. My e-fridge called me special, so I threw it out. Oh, man. How offensive. Thank you. FML. Thanks. I really like my name, too. Also, I got in on Extra at around 11 cents. When should my first exit be? Dude, that's your choice, bro. You watch all these channels. I'm not going to just tell you when you should sell. You got in at 11, though. Jeez, what did you do? Like, how do you first get in at 11? The only way you first could have gotten 11 is if you got in 2017. Or you were like, hey, the sky is falling during COVID. I think I'm going to enter into crypto for the first time. Wild. Good for you, though. Derek Daniels, if you had 3 to 5 minutes before a loved one stops listening, how would you consciously explain where we are in the stock market and advise them and not sound crazy? I'm worried for my parents and bet others are too. I am blessed with this ability to communicate here on this YouTube channel and express the concerns I have and all these charts and everything like that. I don't know how you do it without having the data to present it in front of their faces. I have not sat down with my family and called a big family meeting with everybody into like a living room, and then like pulled up my PowerPoint presentation on my TV and said, this is what happens when the federal funds rate falls and what typically happens after 4.236 extensions are reached. Typically, if things like this happen with gold, where gold breaks out, this is a really big warning sign. We're also seeing problems show up in corporate credit. Typically, we're about to die. I haven't tried that yet. But I also have not been very successful at all in convincing anybody in my regular life that they won't do it, right? The reality is of this, that hide it all. Like, look, I don't have to do anything. It just keeps going up, and it's true. It just keeps going up. So, that has been the case for the last 15 years. Why is this time any different? Is their thoughts, right? And they look at their 401k balances and believe, and that's the thing, right? So it's hard. Most normal people never ever get scared into the reversal or the initial sign of the reversal. It's typically when things get really, really, really bad, and the narrative has to get really, really, really bad. So, all right, I gotta get going, guys, because we're already at 1 hour and 18 minutes. Sure. How's that XRP fractal and the similarities of Doge's range you pulled up? I'm not sure. I'll have to get, guys, if we're going to do more charts at this point at 1 hour and 20 minutes into this thing, and I have to get to the end. I love you all. I'm sorry. Joseph Morgan, in case you didn't see or wanted to say thanks again for a lifetime of such valuable info for being subbed for the last 3 years and 4 months. I wanted to super chat to new member. Welcome, Joseph. Joseph, did I not get it? Did I skip you? I'm going to go look for you. In case you didn't see it. Okay, in case you didn't see, I wanted to say thanks again for a lifetime of such valuable and for being sub for the last 3 or 4 years. I wanted to super chat too. Thank you, Joseph. Maybe you said it in the chat. Thank you, brother. Welcome for 3 years. Kashav. Hey, BCB, if ADA follows the Ethereum Classic 4.236 extension, does that mean it takes another 8 months for the stock market to hit the fan? Could. Right? It's all when. I mean, I understand you're trying to be pretty straightforward, but it is like in the end that is it is a when moon question. How long does it take for that to end up happening? I don't know the answer on time. Greg L gifted 5 BCB memberships, brother. Greg, thank you. And then Andy did as well. And then Andy says, sorry, it was the last one. No more growth. LOL. Andy, thank you so much. And Greg, thank you too. Oh no, look who it is. Not Oscar Hernandez. I've been following you since late 2019. Witnessing the growth of your channel and all of your successes has been a great joy in my life. I'm proud of you, brother. Not Oscar Hernandez is like the nicest guy in the world. Well, there's lots of you guys who are very nice, but Oscar always not Oscar so kind. Thank you, not Oscar. Late 2019. That would be an original G. Is that what it is? There's also a joke about that of something I did say. Is it original G? Because back in the day, I called it an old gangster. It's an OG. He's an old gangster. Thank you very much. I do know it's original. Blockchain Rocker gifted a BCB membership. Thank you very much, Blockchain Rocker. FML COVID 2020, baby. Oh, man, that's where you got it. Sure. How's XRP versus Bitcoin 200 MA? That's a long time ago. Long ways above. Chris, if Bitcoin continues to work down, but alts don't blast off, at what point would you think the alt season is invalid? You would have to pray to God. If alts don't take off in here, then you have to really hold on to the 2014, 2016, 2017 model, in that you have to hope that you're going to get to that all-time high. If everything hits the fan, then you just don't get any alt season. You don't get anything. It's all just trash. It's all where it is, right? If Bitcoin like clearly breaks down below here, and altcoins already get down, you're going to have so many people who are just losing their crap. You'd be down, the altcoin's probably down 50%. Then you already have the break in here. Then you get stock market breaking. You get everything breaking all at once, right? So those are hard decisions for people to make in the thick of moment and risk taking on third range boundaries. I see so many people on Twitter who call themselves professional traders. How would a professional trader not risk manage a third range boundary is beyond my belief. How? And this is something I teach all the time, right? Retraces, third range boundaries, and treating them and having to have some type of, risk management happening at a third range boundary and to not do anything there. I don't believe half of it. I think half of these traders on Twitter are doing nothing, but when they show their victories, they're entering into low market cap altcoins and shilling them to their audience on Twitter and then showing their victories. How you could not see that third range boundary is beyond me. Now it's all about the different scenarios in here and how distribution can happen in here, right? And if this thing is going to all-time highs and that's what it takes for the altcoins to get there, then it's going to be a ways out. It's going to be quite a ways out. How is Microsoft chart looking? Bullish. Okay, sure. Sure. When FTX collapsed, the stock market stayed steady. Has it completely deviated or no? No, that's not true. This is my last one, guys. That's not true. Where are you? We'll just do it from here. This all goes back to, is Bitcoin a tech stock? Or is Bitcoin money? There you go. Tech led the way, right? Right. Here's all your moves down for tech. There's your support level. Tech went first. Then they broke out together. And that just shattered Bitcoin's dreams. That just shattered Bitcoiners' narratives. Look at this. Look at this thing. Yeah, ETFs. Sure. Okay. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. Happy Friday. All right, guys, there's a little bit of a bounce in there, like we talked about at the beginning of the stream, happening in there. This, of course, gives us our first bullish divergence to show up in here. Again, to be mindful that, we have a Fed week coming up next week. A lot of times we do see these things flip back down, and that's how we get our true bullish divergence happening in here, where we now have a higher high and a higher low in the relative strength, even though you have the lower lows happening in here. And that's how bottoms tend to get formed in here, at least local bottoms happening in here for now, right? This is not a major time frame of a day or a week. This is on the 4-hour time frame happening in here. We got green in the market. You got 0x up 23%. Celestia up 10, Near and ICP all up 10% as well. SUI following behind at 9. So we've got some movement happening over there. Don't be surprised if there is another low, if news comes associated with it, and if retail starts to panic during that moment, as sentiment has shifted down to neutral. We spent a full 3 months in greed. We hit extreme greed right there as we got in here. Now we flip back to neutral. Hey, a little bit of fear. Good sign. It's the things we look for. Otherwise, things are looking positive for a local bottom to start forming in here. We'll look for more signs of those things to come throughout the weekend and into next week. If we get those signs throughout the weekend, I'll post over there on Twitter. Otherwise, have an absolutely wonderful weekend. If you haven't checked out the newsletters over there, lots of content for you, along with audio voice recordings of all of them. So if you'd like to read the things that I have to write and discussions that I think are important at the time, or even some of the case studies that I've done over there on the altcoin market and performance, and what sectors did a whole lot better in 2021, since we did have such a vastly different market than we did in 2017. Huge case studies done over here to learn what were those things that changed in the market in 2021 from 2017. Only 22% set all-time highs. What the heck happened? Feels like we've found a lot of those issues in there. You can check that out over here on blockchainbacker.substack.com. Link in the description of this live stream, and I just posted it in the chat right there. Of course, you can check out bcbacker.com right here for over 40 videos and 11 hours of content to absolutely blow away your mind so you can have a wonderful weekend. Teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators in TradingView and CoinTrader Pro, different chart patterns, different indicators, Wyckoff accumulation and distribution, along with Elliott wave theory. Then talking about a lot of that historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market to understand how we get from one thing to another, altcoins, percentages, lessons learned between 2017 and 2021. Markets were very different. What were those lessons that we did end up learning? And of course, you could check that out over here. bcbacker.com. I forgot to mention downloadable PDFs as well for yourself, so you can have references and guides to reference to anytime you want. One-time fee, $39 over here. Newsletter is a subscription. Otherwise, guys, have an absolutely wonderful weekend. Annie Philpott, you came in one more time. You said you were done. Thank you. 5 more BCB memberships. Guys, make sure you thank whoever hooked you up. If you're in the chat, your name flipped green, you became a member, make sure you thank the guys who hooked you up. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. I want to thank you all for tuning in throughout the week. It was a wild week, kind of a rough week, but hey, it looks like we're finishing it with a nice big fat amount of green over on the right side of the screen. We'll check in with it again next week. And it looks like probably next week we get back to having videos put out again. So I was kind of waiting to get through a moment like this and wait for some indicators to start flipping before we started recording stuff. Things are starting to show a couple of things now after that first little sign of life right there. So I think we have stuff to start talking about again. So we'll get videos going back again next week. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please like this live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.